The final score: Reading 2, Wrexham 0. We can't complain about this. Reading, the young team, goodness me, such energy, such organisation in the press as well, and they were good value for this win. Disappointing for Wrexham, and I think that Phil Clarkson was right in qualifying the first half as a game was being two-sided and tough challenges at the weekend. But it was Reading who stepped up in the second half, raised their levels, and took the decisive advantage in the game. So, Wrexham with a couple of changes. Ryan Barnett and James McLean coming in, Elliot Lee and Ryan Longman dropping out. And the first half, essentially, Reading played some very nice football. They moved the ball around quickly. They are really energetic when they haven't got the ball. And they were very nice to watch. But it was very similar to the Huddersfield game. Frankly, there are echoes of a lot of recent away games in this match, which I'll get to later. But they were very similar in that sense. I felt Huddersfield a week earlier looked nice in our half, but they weren't really troubling us. And actually, we were the team carving out chances on a transition, even though, to be honest, our passing wasn't working. We were being hurried by their press into making mistakes. And there was too many long balls forwards for Sam Smith, who was isolated as Jay Rodriguez was trying to drop back into support midfield. So, we weren't right. And yet, ironically, we were the side who looked to me a bit more likely in the first half to score. The only real big chance that Reading had, I would argue, in the first half came when, was it a chance? Huge kick by Pereira, the keeper. Campbell chesting the ball down, and Wareham with a difficult chance as the ball's bouncing up at him. Hits a snapshot from about 25 yards, which whistles comfortably over the bar. It's a good strike, but it's a very difficult technique. That's the only real thing Reading did in terms of getting shots off on target, or off target, I thought. That came just after, in the 10th minute, we had a shout for a penalty, which would take on an interesting context at the start of the second half. It was Smith doing well, holding her up and switching to the right-hand side. Barnett was taking on Charlie Savage, cut inside and beat him easily, and was driving into the box when Ehi Bashian ran it, coming back on the cover, just ran into him. Barnett asked for the penalty. I was on the opposite side of the pitch, and I thought it was worth asking for the penalty. To be honest, there are a few factors to put into context. And I must say, before I say any more, they didn't show a replay of it, which surprised me. And I've had to go frame by frame through just the main camera picture. Still looks the same to me as I thought it was live. Ehio Bashiman steps in, and he's very clumsy, he's awkward. It's a foul, I would argue, if it's outside the box. It looks to me like Barnett manages to stretch out and get a toe to the ball first, and Ehio Bashiman kicks him. As I said, this will become relevant a little bit later on. It may have been outside the box, it's hard to tell. It looks kind of on the line, but like I said, there's only the main camera at the other side of the pitch showing it, so I really couldn't guarantee that. But the thing is, the ref doesn't give a foul at all. So that was a little bit frustrating. We continue to not look convincing, but still look dangerous on the break. Sam Smith fighting a thankless task up front when he gets the chance to get the ball down or gets it to feet, which didn't happen often enough by a long distance. He's linking things up really well. He's holding it up well. He's playing some nice passes. But unfortunately, Barnett on the right is not able to get into as many good positions as he usually does. Revan had a little bit of a rough ride on the left-hand side. And Rathbone, who was injured on Saturday, didn't quite look himself. So he's lacking support, Smith, in all honesty. Matty James was, I'd say, probably the only other player really playing at his normal levels, and he gets up to try and help out. But yeah, we have a chance after 25 minutes. Really good patient build-up play. When we put it in the box, it's dealt with, but the ball keeps ricocheting around. In the end, it's a poor headed clearance by Tyler Binden. and it drops for Smith on the right side of the box. He smashes a powerful shot in, which is well blocked. It ricochets back to him, and he tries another shot, which he mishits. But actually, it's one of those slightly awkward ones that skips towards the far post, and the goalkeeper, Pereira, doesn't look completely balanced or in control as he goes across to save it. 4 minutes later, another opportunity. James, with a good interception in midfield, feeds it to Smith, and Smith carries the ball forwards well, deep into Reading's half, pops it inside to Rodriguez, who plays a return pass. Maybe could have been slightly more in Smith's path on the edge of the box, but he strikes it well, and again his shot is blocked. And then the last opportunity of any note, really, is the big chance for Wrexham in the first half. James, again, is initiating things. It's another nice little move. He's picking out Revan, who works a 1-2 with James, who's followed play up. McLean picks her up on the left-hand side, rips across in to the far post. Barnett is charging in on the diagonal with a chance to score. He hits it cleanly on the volley, puts it into the goal mouth rather than on target. Smith is there, but Strickland gets the first touch, and it ricochets off him and just over the top left corner. Strickland's lucky. He has no control over where it's going, but he has been rewarded for doing the basics of his job well, sticking to Smith, goal side of him in the goal mouth, and as a consequence, Smith isn't given a chance to just knock the ball past the keeper. Strickland and Bindon, I thought the centre-backs were absolutely outstanding for Reading. They really dealt with everything. You know, when you throw hopeful stuff towards Smith, he has the ability to make something of him. But he found it hard against these two because they both looked extremely high quality. So half time, I'm going to be honest, I'm thinking, all right, this is okay. We're not playing anywhere near the level we want to be playing in, but you know, we have gears to go through. We've seen this happen a few times in away games this season. We can build and improve definitely on this. And so I was feeling optimistic, but instead the opposite happens. Reading are the side who manage to add threat to their attractive build-up play. And so we have a problem on our hands because, within 7 minutes of the restart, 11 minutes of the restart, we had 2 goals down. We actually carve out the first chance of the half. O'Connor with a free kick into the goal mouth. There's bit of a scramble, but Reading are penned in by us. We got them surrounded and they just can't get the ball clear, and in the end the ball drops for O'Connor, who hits a good volley from the corner of the box, but it's too straight and it's an easy take for Pereira. Pity didn't sky it, because 36 seconds later Reading have a penalty. Now this is the one, of course, that I can't help comparing to the challenge by Hugh Basherman on Barnett, because it's on essentially the same spot on the pitch. The ball is knocked down the right by Strickland. Campbell gets up and beats Revan in the air. Revan doesn't really get in a challenge as such, can't get there in time. Wareham, who's tireless up front for Reading, has got goal side of O'Connor, and O'Connell comes across. Wareham does brilliantly to stretch and just get his toe to it ahead of O'Connell, who makes contact with him. Ref gives the penalty after seeming to think for a while. It looks and feels soft, but much as I want to look at it and find some injustice, I do think it's a penalty, to be honest. It's on the line, I would say, at least. So O'Connell was immediately saying that was outside the box. It wasn't, I don't think. I mean, is there a huge amount of contact? Not really, but does he kick his foot? Yes, he does. So the ref's entitled to give it, I think. Is Wareham going anywhere? No, but that's not relevant in terms of the rules. He's done very cutely to stretch and put his foot where O'Connell's foot's going and draw it. It's very similar to the Shrewsbury penalty, which again was on the same part of the pitch when O'Connell came across and caught his man. So penalty given, and Harvey Knibb steps up, elaborate run-up, and drills it nicely into the bottom left corner. Okonkwo's sent the wrong way, and we're a goal down, and we don't react well to that. Reading are really buoyed by it. Their crowd were noisy. There was a protest against the ownership, of course, before and during the game. The Wrexham fans were applauding during the match, the protest as well. And the crowd were very in the game, whether that influenced it or not, I don't know. And 5 minutes later, they score, and this is a superb goal. I mean, it really is very good football. It's what they're all about. Lots of passing movement, lots of rotation. The two fullbacks, I beg your pardon, Abrefa on the right and Garcia on the left. And Garcia in particular, we're always looking to come inside, plays inverted fullbacks, make extra bodies in midfield. And they both do it at the same time here. They're creating a complete control of midfield and really big overloads. They're almost close enough to shake hands in the middle of the pitch, the two fullbacks. And they combine nicely. Nibs picks up the ball on the edge of the area after Wing has played it into him and then followed his run on into the box. Nibs drills it back in. Wareham looks like he wants to get on the end of it, but obviously Wing gives a big shout, says leave it, and drills a great finish from the edge of the area into the bottom right corner. It's an excellent goal. It really is an excellent goal. 10 passes and then a crisp finish. And yeah, at that point, we are looking in real trouble. Phil Parkinson responds to this. 3 minutes later, Elliot Lee comes on. Seb Revan makes way. James McLean shifts across the left wing back. And it must be said that actually Parkinson's substitutions do breathe life into Wrexham, and we start to get a bit of momentum going. We have an opportunity when Lee feeds McLean. He sweeps a good cross into the far post. Smith does ever so well to get goal side of his man, and diving sideways, get leverage on his header and enough power to force Pereira to have to jump across and make an acrobatic save. With 20 minutes left, we make further alterations. Off comes Rodriguez, replaced by Stephen Fletcher. Off comes McLean. Longman comes on. Longman will have a massive influence, although another big influence is that 5 minutes later, Strickland is sent off. And I've got to say, I mean, this was just bizarre. He's been booked already. And Reading, it has to be said, have not been subtle with their time wasting. The referee has been warning them and books the goalkeeper Pereira for time wasting. And then shortly afterwards, free kick to Reading. And again, they're really obvious in the time wasting. Strickland is going to take the kick. Remember, he's on a yellow card. The referee is clearly telling him to get on with it. And he blows his whistle to tell him, take this free kick. And Strickland seems to take that as a cue to walk away. So having taken an eternity to set her up and look like he's going to take a free kick, when the referee says, hurry up, I'm getting impatient, and blows his whistle and tells him, come on, he pretends that he just runs up the pitch. Well, what's the ref going to do? The Reading players and fans were incensed. Strickland refused to leave the pitch, and when he finally slowly walked off the pitch, he stopped before leaving the pitch in front of the dugouts and stayed there for a bit longer. So, I mean, he'll be lucky if he's not reported by the ref and gets extra punishments. The crowd are clapping him off. I mean, it's not a controversial decision. It's an absolute no-brainer. You push your luck like that when on a yellow. The only other outcome I could imagine was that Pereira was the player who ran up to take the kick. And if the referee had judged that, Pereira had told Strickland to leave it, he could have given the keeper a second yellow card. And that would have been very interesting indeed, wouldn't it? But yeah, down to 10 men, and Reading already were starting to dig deep and protect the leads, which not totally sure is the right thing to do, if I'm honest, because the way they were playing, they had more goals in them. And we start to really pile it on now. 2 minutes afterwards, after the red cards, a big chance. Fletcher helping it on nicely. Longman immediately involved, breaks down the left, pulls it back to Fletcher, edge of the area, in space. He skies it. His first touch isn't great, which is so unusual, isn't it? It's Fletcher, you want to be running onto this, but his first touch doesn't take the ball where he wants it to go, and with a defender trying to come in, he skies it over the bar. It's a heck of a big chance, that. There's an opportunity at the other end as well. Long ball forwards. Cleworth doesn't win the header in the penalty area, maybe fouled, ball drops out, and Bindon has got up there in open play, the centre-back, and he absolutely drills a shot. Okonkwo is unsighted, but he saves it. I've got to be honest, at the time, I thought has it just hit him? He's not been out of the way in time. Looking at the replay, it's an outrageously good save. He just reflex action, throws his left hand up, and it hits his hand, and ricochets away. Firstly, he's totally unsighted. Secondly, the ball is going like a rocket. Thirdly, the Bindon is about 6 yards in front of Conquo, so he's not a long way out, and about 8 yards in front of goal. Unbelievable reflexes, unbelievable save, and thankfully, very strong wrist. A good job it wasn't the one he broke earlier in the season, but wow, it was an incredible stop that was, to stop it being 3-0. We keep going. Longman is absolutely causing mayhem on the left. Reading have now switched to 3 at the back to have an extra body in there, and they are penned into their box constantly. Longman's getting a stream of crosses in. Some of them are excellent, some of them are in good areas. The Brefford only blocks one of his attempted crosses, and he gets a lot of crosses in. But we just can't capitalise. Great ball into the far post. Smith and Garcia attack it at the far post. Smith lunges at it, can't quite make contact, but he's unsighted Garcia, and it hits his head and ricochets towards goal. Pereira does well to get across to his left and save it. Within a minute, another near miss. Guess what? It's Longman and Smith. Longman's sweeping a good ball into the far post. Smith, not with an angle to really go at goal, makes really good contact on a diving header, puts it in with pace into the goal mouth. Bindon gets a foot to it, could easily have gone inside the near post, goes just wide for a corner. 7 minutes left, we make further changes to really go for it. O'Connell is replaced by Farl as we push on, and George Evans comes on for Ollie Rathbone, and we've now got 3 players up front plus the 2 wing backs who are, I said in commentary, it's almost like an old-fashioned 2-3-5 when we've got the ball, which is most of the time, and Reading are just penned in and we're pinging that ball in. There's a huge scramble in the box with 4 minutes left. Longman sweeping and across. It's just helped on. Fletcher does brilliantly. Pereira comes out wide of the posts to retrieve the ball. I mean, I've got to be honest, I think Pereira should have done better. But Fletcher does brilliantly to get there, and all he can do is flick it into the goal mouth and hope someone's in there. Farl is in there. The ball drops, bouncing about a yard off the line. Defender just gets goal side of Farl and gets enough to nudge it on. Smith is there on a tight angle on the left and nails his strike back in on target. Pereira does magnificently well, having been wide of his post, to get back into the goal mouth, dive, do a Superman dive and get a hand to it and push it clear. Crazy save, mad scramble. In the last minute, another opportunity. Again, it's Longman delivering from the left-hand side, sweeping it in. Fletcher makes good contact with his header, but one of the centre-backs has got touch tight on him and jumps with him, and so Fletcher can't keep it down. It goes over the bar. 7 added minutes are shown, and almost immediately Barnes and Garcia go down. The initial impression was that they looked worryingly like serious injuries. They both eventually are able to carry on, but they need a couple of minutes of treatment. And in the 8th minute of added time, we make one final chance. The game's gone by now, obviously. Barnett standing a good ball into the goal mouth. Farl manages to get goal side of the defence. Keeper comes, Farl beats him to it, but he gets too much onto his header and it flies over the bar. And we've lost 2-0. And despite the fact that at the end we were upping the ante, playing with a lot more tempo, asking questions their defence, I still say you can't argue with that outcome. Reading at the start of the second half took control. Penalty, okay. I'm not going to say it's a controversial penalty. I don't think it is a controversial penalty particularly, although I would say referees don't always have the nerve to give them. So in that regard we're unlucky, but that's clutching at straws, isn't it? Let's have a look at the performances. Well, firstly, I mean, Arthur Okonkwo absolutely couldn't be faulted with either of the goals, a penalty and a brilliant finish. And that save he makes in the second half is superb. When he's coming out and looking to deal with stuff in the air, he did well. So a lot of sympathy for Okonkwo, who absolutely does nothing wrong. The back three didn't have such a good time as they have recently when they've been reeling off these clean sheets. I mean, O'Connell didn't play badly at all, won a lot of the ball in the air, and did try to start things off sometimes with those long raking passes he likes to play. But the penalty, again, frustrating, again, similar to that Shrewsbury game, really changed the game completely, and that was a shame for him. Cleworth wasn't as imposing as he usually is, I wouldn't say, and had less scope to get forwards and support because we just weren't passing the ball around well. I'm not saying that's his fault. And then O'Connor did manage to get up and link up in midfield a bit. But yeah, he let his man get in goal side of him for the penalty move. Yeah, and his passing, as I say, wasn't quite where he normally is. In midfield, I'd say man of the match is Matty James. He, as I said earlier, was at his normal level. He was really good. When Reading were pressing, he wasn't giving the ball away. His passing was sharp. He was looking to go forwards, but either passing or driving the ball forwards. And I was very impressed with Matty James in the midst of a below-par performance. I thought he still looked like quality. McLean played in centre midfield, didn't really have much impact on the game in that position. Had a couple of nice little combinations where he and Revan would switch around, or Revan's going outside, but it wasn't a Revan-Rathbone deal. Maybe that's why Revan had a slightly disappointing game, because Rathbone combined so well with him, but Rathbone was shifted to the right to accommodate McLean on the left in the midfield three. McLean then went wing back when we were trying to push on, but it was when Longman came on as a wing back on the left that we really started making chances. And then the other centre mid was Rathbone, who, like I said, took a knock on Saturday, which looked really worrying. So it was wonderful to see him start, but he wasn't at his normal levels. You know, whether he just wasn't feeling quite right, I don't know. But the game bypassed him a bit. Actually, we weren't passing through midfield enough. We weren't really brave enough on the ball to pass through midfield and use the midfielders, to be fair to him. The wing backs, like I said, I talked about McLean. Barnett had the odd moment, to be fair, but we didn't get much going down the right-hand side, in all honesty. Defensively, he did fine. He made some decent interventions, in fact, but he wasn't able to hurt Reading as much as he'd have liked to. And then up front, I'm a big fan of Jay Rodriguez, but he wasn't really able to get into this game. But again, we're knocking balls over our midfield, and he's dropping into midfield to try and add to the numbers, because Reading are moving the ball around so quickly and well in that part of the pitch. So and maybe it's not an approach that suits him. Smith deserves kudos, because he, as I said, battled heroically. Really went to war with the two centre-backs, but unluckily for us, Strickland and Bindon looked superb. Bindon was sold to Nottingham Forest in January, but has been loaned back for the rest of the season. What are you thinking of, Nuno Espirito Santo? Keep him. Let us score goals past him. But yeah, Smith battled hard, and he was a threat, and Pereira made some saves from it, but he wasn't given enough to work with. You could see, looking at the way Reading play as well, just what he would enjoy about playing for Reading, couldn't you? You know, the amount of time they spent moving the ball around sharply and around the edge of the area. You know, you could see a player with his profile would have opportunities playing for them. Elliot Lee came on. Now, the substitutes, I thought, did well. I mean, they come on when we're chasing the game, and we are, for the first time, the only time, really getting proper forward momentum, and the substitutes play a big part in that. Elliot Lee, I thought, looked more threatening than he did last Saturday. He's beavering around, working hard. Sometimes you feel play it forwards when he doesn't quite have the confidence. I don't know what, I didn't decide to do that, but he put in a good, solid performance and did try to take the game to Reading, and was very important in that left-sided midfield role, getting the ball constantly to Longman. And Longman, I did contemplate whether after 20 minutes on the pitch plus added time, whether Longman's man of the match. I've got to be honest, because he was superb and he made everything different. I mean, the succession of crosses he got in, and he was constantly delivering left foot, right foot, good quality into good areas. He was tremendous. He was absolutely tremendous. Fletcher came on and was a threat. Will be disappointed, I think, not to work the keeper. He had a couple of, well, he had one very good chance and a couple of half chances. And I think, you know, by his high standards, he'd have expected to at least work the keeper, if not actually get the ball past the keeper. And then 7 minutes left, George Evans came on and sort of slotting back a bit, you know, maybe not so sure. We did go to 4 at the back, you know. Evans was sitting in a bit with the centre-backs. He had a couple of moments of tidiness, but the midfield at that point, basically their job was to usher the ball on, get it wide, and then get players' bodies in the box. Farl didn't have much chance to get into the game. He had that very late chance, which, you know, it is a chance. He's 8 yards out just to keep it to beat, but the way the ball comes in, he's got to get a really good touch in order to finish it. It's a more difficult chance than it looks. So really frustrating, because a draw would have taken us ahead of Wycombe on before Saturday's big showdown. Now we're behind them and they've played the game less. It's makes Saturday feel big. It's got to be said, but there's still just under a quarter of the season left. There's going to be plenty of twists and turns, and we just need now to hit the ground running in the remainder of our matches and respond to this disappointing night out in Berkshire. With a final score of Reading 2, Wrexham. I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.